this time. All right, we're going live. Here we go. Oh my goodness. All right. Make sure that I see us live. I think we are live. Perfect. Okay. All right.
Right, can we say something? We're live?
Yeah,
We're
we're
here?
live. We're here. We're here.
Whoa. All right. So, we're here, getting the controversial take out of the way first. I heard Kenobi was the best Star Wars show today and that Andor was the worst. So, pray for that person, wherever they are.
I'm all for hot takes like that. If
That's
someone wants to back that up, I am all for it. Like I have some spicy takes myself when it comes to Star Wars media.
next to your list, then.
Right? Although I have a hard time because I love it all. Like even though I might have critiques of some, but yeah.
All right. So, what are we talking about tonight, though?
That's right. So, if you're unfamiliar with us, we are from Amber Flight Gaming, and I am dragonrider. And joining me, I have DankestDad and Marcolapolis. How are you guys doing? Ready to talk about some jump to Lightspeed leaders?
Absolutely.
So excited.
Awesome. So, yes, that's what we are going to be doing here. We are going to be reviewing the 18 leaders for Jump to Lightspeed and doing kind of a, I guess we're going to call this like a collaborative tier list, an overall collaborative tier list, I guess. So it's going to be interesting. I'm sure we'll each have some hot takes at some point, as we do usually have during review time for any card game. So excited to see how it goes. We're going to be following the main website's kind of database. So we're just going to go in that order, no order in particular, other than just that's how it is on the main site, and it's just easiest to do it that way. So we're going to be kicking things off with our vigilance villainy with Asajj Ventress. Ventress. Oh my goodness, I can't even talk already. And the action is to tap and deal 1 damage to a friendly unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit in the same arena. The epic action activates at 6 or more resources, and you can deploy the leader or deploy it as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit. And the attached unit is a leader unit. It gains grit, and on attack, you may deal 1 damage to a friendly unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit in the same arena. As a standalone ground unit, it is a 4 attack, 6 health. And as an upgrade, it is +3/+4. With Force, Knight, Bounty Hunter, and Pilot. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. What do you guys think?
So, I'll be on. You go ahead. You started off.
Okay, I'm a huge fan of Asajj this set. I think she's really interesting. I think it works perfectly with the indirect damage that's going to be introduced this set. So when you assign damage, you can assign it to your grit units, and it actually can benefit you later on in the play. Of course, there's always a downside for playing grit. You kind of hope your units are damaged, and then they make it more vulnerable at the same time. But I think there's a lot of interesting plays with Asajj. I think Asajj with Tarkentown, Asajj with ECL. You can ramp fairly easily, especially if you drop a super laser tech. If you have nothing to attack into with a super laser tech and you want to ramp, you can just use Asajj's ability, ping it for 1 damage, and then you get that ramp as soon as you can play it if you want. Same thing with Tarkentown. If you have a threatening unit on the other side you want to get rid of, even on turn 1, you can ping your own unit, ping that unit, Tarkentown it, clear the board, get board advantage early. I'm really excited for Asajj.
Definitely. And looking at her, I tend to really like characters that have this ability to be proactive and impact the game early with an action that only costs your turn. It doesn't cost you actual resources. So on turn one, if you are the player with the initiative and you play a nice, big, chonky 2-cost unit, your opponent can't play any of those aggressive 1 health units that they're going to try to get over you with. You have that free ping right there waiting, and that can let you snowball initiative and just go on such a long run. Also, before the show, we were talking about this card a little bit, and I was a little bit lower on it than I am now because I just learned how to read. And on the back, the fact that she gives the attached unit grit also makes those units that you have that stick around get even more threatening. And you might have something without grit that's soaking up damage, or a big unit that maybe isn't quite there, and suddenly just that 3/4 means it can absorb even more hits. You also can deal damage to that own unit. It doesn't say another friendly unit. You can hit yourself, get even more damage, and keep going. So that pilot is deceptively good, and if you are like me, you will miss it on your first read if you're not careful. So I am very, very high on this leader.
Yeah, I'm with you both. I really like Asajj as well. I talk about this in like any card game that I talk about where I'm like, I use the word flexibility probably too much, but I love the flexibility of this. As Marcus already said, right? It's like, okay, this is something that you can use on your own units. You can use it somewhere else. It's like you don't even have to use it with grit. I know that from some of the talk that I've heard from other people, like the grit is kind of the focus, and that's where you can use it for some synergy, but you don't have to, right? So it's like you can use it in whatever you want. I mean, you can even use it for as you said, like clearing something off, clearing your own stuff. Um I would say even just using it on like, hey, this has a shield, I'm just going to remove my shield or their shield and be able to do that, not even like worry about dealing damage, but getting rid of shields as well. I think is really cool. So the flexibility to me is really awesome. Um, what do you guys think for a tier rating? S tier, A, B, C, D. What do you think?
As much as I love Asajj and I'm excited to play her, I think she's more B tier. I think there's going to be a lot of ways to counter Asajj. I think her flipping on 6 is a little late for something that is going to be damaging their own units and wants to play a little bit quicker. Um, I think for me, Asajj being a little bit middle of the pack, B tier, with a possibility of getting up to A, um, for me, that seems to be that sweet spot from my point of view.
Well, I can say that I'm a simple man, and A is for Asajj. I think she probably belongs at the bottom of A or top of B, so I'm good with either placement, but I would lean toward low A for
Uh,
the same reasons Marcus just went through.
I was thinking A as well, so I think for now we'll stick with that, since kind of two of the three of us put it there, and probably we'll end up at that lower. Maybe we'll move it down to the high B. We'll see as we progress through. But Dankest, do you want to do the next leader?
Sure. So next up, we have Grand Admiral Thrawn, staying with the Vigilance and Villainy. Thrawn says, when you use a when defeated ability, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, use that ability again. And then Thrawn has an epic action. If you control 6 or more resources, deploy this leader. And on the rear, he's an Imperial officer with 4/7 that says when you use a when defeated ability, you may use that ability again. Use this ability only once each round. And, well, his epithet is how unfortunate, but I don't think that there's anything unfortunate about this leader if you are the person playing him. Like Asajj, the thing that he does is for free, it's costless, and a lot of when defeated abilities can be particularly powerful, especially in Premier Constructed, when the exploit keyword from the last set is still going strong. Thrawn can capitalize on that better than most of the other leaders that we've seen, and can use those when defeated that make droids to make more droids and potentially ramp into bigger threats early. 4-7 is also pretty respectable, but he does come down on 6, which I think is a bit of a flaw.
Yeah, I really like Thrawn. I think that in a control environment, I think he's got tons of advantages. The new event that's coming out this set, No Glory, Only Results, is going to be great to take advantage of your opponent's win defeated abilities. Being able to take it from them, whether it's a K2SO or one of their bigger units, if you're in the Thrawn mirror, I think it's just a fantastic ability. Um, Tons of good value. Even though there's certain cards that just won't work for, such as Super Laser Tech, you can't ramp 2 cards because of the rule. But it's still just strong leader, strong card, um, and I'm excited to see what people come up with Thrawn.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on this one as well, which is weird feeling for me. I've played a lot more heroism than I have villainy, so like to kick things off, the first 2 are villainy, and I'm like, I like these leaders. I'm a little concerned for my own sanity, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I like this one as well. I think it's really cool, and the 7 health really gets me as well. It does feel like it might be slightly slow coming out on 6, but I don't know. I still feel like there's lots of synergy potential with the not only when defeated, but like Imperial stuff as well. So I think that is really interesting, and that 7 health is very interesting to me. That keeps catching my eye, so I like him.
I think that's huge for a
Yeah.
6 deploy. We just saw Asajj. If she deploys on the ground, she's a 4/6. I think having that little extra cushion of health can help your leader stick around at least until the next phase. Um, and what's nice about Thrawn is he kind of has the same ability when he's deployed and when he's in the leader spot, with the condition that you can only use it once when you exhaust him when he's a leader. But there's a lot of good synergy with the way you build your deck. You don't have to really plan around, okay, is my strategy going to change when he's deployed compared to when he's not deployed? Um, but I agree. I think 7 health is great. Um, I think if he flipped on 5, I think he would be broken, like Boba broken, and then he'd be banned
Whoa,
before
whoa,
we even
whoa.
get to the next set of PQs.
I
Uh,
thought we called it suspended here. Isn't this Star Wars Unlimited?
Suspended. Yes, I'm sorry. He is on the bench until further notice. Um, but yeah, good stats for a leader card for sure.
Oh, 4-7's a little bit below what Don and I consider good stats for the cost at 6, but we'll take it. So
Hey, for Star Wars, it's not bad. I like it.
maybe 6-7. We'll see.
Yeah.
But where are we putting Thrawn?
I'd say comfortably A. I don't think anything is going to be broken where he's going to be winning 25% or more of the PQs or being top 8 and 25% or more. Um, so I don't think he's going to be that S tier level, but I definitely think um, it's going to be strong against a lot of matchups. And when you're playing win defeated units and you're assigning indirect damage, if you don't want to put that indirect damage on your base and you just want to kill off a unit to use that ability, it's a nice option to have in your back pocket. So
Definitely.
I think there's definitely plenty of tools for Thrawn in the early game and late game. And I think he's a strong A tier contender.
Yeah. I guess I'll be a little contrarian and say that I agree with all of that, but just because she is so strong on the first 2 turns of the game, I'm tempted to put Asajj above him, but I think they're very close, and it really depends on what kind of what the meta game looks like about who's going to be more effective. But both of them are very good cards, so I'm happy with A, no matter which side of Asajj Thrawn goes on.
I was thinking mid to lower A, so I'm kind of like, I guess, on the same wavelength as both of you. I'm not sure where to put Thrawn. I was thinking a little bit above Asajj, so I guess we'll start with that.
Alright,
And
we can go above. We can go above. Admiral A, yeah, we're
yeah,
see so
See,
simple.
it fits. That's so easy. It's so easy to do a tier list. That's
I know our job is being done for us.
it is.
Yeah, we might want to change the A color to blue, but we'll see. We'll see if the other cards keep this one going.
Yes. All right. You want to take the next one?
Yes, Lando Calrissian. So, Lando. Action, you can spend 1 resource and exhaust him. You play a unit from your hand, paying its cost. If you do, and you control a ground unit and a space unit, you can give a shield token to the unit you just played. His epic action, he flips on 7. He can be deployed as a leader or as an upgrade as a pilot. When he is deployed on the ground, he's a 5/7 with Sentinel. And when he is attached as a pilot onto a space unit or a vehicle, because it can be ground as well, the attached unit gains Sentinel. And when deployed as an upgrade, you can give a shield token to a unit in a different arena. When he attaches as a pilot, he is a +5/+5 to attack and health onto that unit.
Oh, that was a lot of words for a card I don't know if we'll talk that much about. What do you think, Marcus? How's Lando?
I completely agree. I am not a big fan of Lando. Love the character, not the leader card. I wish Lando was a little bit better, just even a little bit. But it's way too conditional. I think it's very difficult to build a deck where you have reliable units in space and on the ground to play a unit and then spend another resource to give a shield token to it. 7 deploy is also a bit late. I think if you're going to try and play Lando, you really have to be building sentinels in both the space and the ground arena to try and stall the game until he can start making an impact. And I think it's the further conditional of when you deploy him as a upgrade as a pilot to give a shield token to something in another part, like not in the same arena, I think weakens it as well. Yeah, I think this might be our weakest leader.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You talked about how hard the condition is to have something in space and on the ground, and I agree. But that might be an upside because it will stop people from using this ability because the rate of a shield token for 1 resource is just not fantastic in a constructed environment. For draft though, that is pretty solid. And I will have to take a deeper look at the card pool, but if you can get enough units with Sentinel and Ambush, Lando can let you outvalue your opponents in extended draft games. So in draft or at pre-release, Lando is going to be better than the rating we give him here for sure. But, you know, there's a D in Lando, and I think that's where I would put him for Premier Constructed at least.
That is so interesting. I feel like I have the complete opposite thought that like I feel like he can be a little better in constructed than in limited, because the condition of having to have both space and ground seems so difficult. There's just so many more space units in this set. So if you're only drafting out of this set or only doing sealed out of this set, I feel like it's going to be a lot harder to actually have ground and space at the same time and actually pull that off. You can have space all you want, but the ground is where I'm a little bit hesitant, because it's just going to be so much more difficult unless you're playing all your pilots as ground units and not attaching them to vehicles and stuff. So, I don't know.
Hey, we can have grounded vehicles, right? Surely,
well,
there's a couple.
sure, but I still feel like it's gonna be a bit of a struggle. I mean, regardless, I still agree with where we're putting Lando. So it's kind of like he's still not great, whether it's in constructed or limited, but that was my thinking, at least. So
Yeah, I think we're trying to decide whether or not he's top on the D tier or bottom of the D tier. I think it's somewhere in there. Um,
oh,
He
poor
might have it all to
Lando.
himself. We'll
He's
find out.
you might,
But
which is so sad. I love Lando, and
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, it seems like both of the leader cards he's gotten so far, it's not very playable.
And at first, looking at the stats, I was like, "Oh, the stats seem really cool," And then you
Oh
read it,
yeah.
and you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, there it goes."
Okay, I will say one good thing about Lando. It's
Okay.
very true to Return of the Jedi, with him trying to just stall and buy time and just running into like tons of problems when he's trying to do the attack run as gold leader onto the Death Star, and then the ground units are not taking down the shields fast enough. So thematically, I like it. Um, that might be the only thing I like.
For sure. I mean, I like the fit. He's just looking
There.
sharp there. But
Oh, he's always looking good.
yeah.
All
All
right.
right, Don. What's
That's
going
right.
on with Rose? Is she going with
Yes.
Lando, or is she going with the good? I mean, other characters.
Well, let let's talk about her. So we have Rose Tico. She is a villainy heroism leader, with an action to exhaust and heal 2 damage from a vehicle unit that attacked this phase. The epic action is on 5 or more resources. And as a ground unit, she is a 5 for a 4/6. With on attack, you may heal 2 damage from a vehicle unit. Definitely feels a little bit more control to me than like aggressive or anything, which makes sense. But coming out on 5 for a more kind of control-y, heal, keep things alive perspective, I feel like that seems pretty good. I don't know if it's quite as good as some of the other leaders, but I don't mind the stat line either. So I don't know. She seems like fine.
Yeah,
Allow me
she.
to present my case,
All right, let's hear
Okay,
it.
because
hear him out. Hear him out.
I think Rose has the potential of being one of the best leaders this set. Um, that's my spicy hot take.
Love
And
it.
here's the evidence. So there's a lot of vehicles that I think have very good they either have ambush, they have sentinel, or they can gain sentinel or ambush. Uh, Having a unit out like the Spark of Rebellion Wedge that gives all vehicles +1/+1 and ambush, I think is pretty huge. If you're ambushing in a unit, it attacked that phase, and then you can heal 2 damage on it, um, especially if it's going into uh, a unit that it's going to survive. Same thing with Sentinels. They're always a pain. You put something like Concord Dawn Interceptors out there, and it's hard to trade into Concord Dawn Interceptors, and especially hard if after it attacks, you can just heal 2 damage on it. Um, I think Rose flipping on 5 and then being a 4/6 is pretty nice as well. Um, One of the earlier deploy leaders with the 6 health feels pretty good as well. I can see some very clever deck building with Rose to use her ability. And I know a lot of people are kind of low on Rose, but I can see her having a pretty good constructed deck.
How, how do you feel about her in limited formats?
I think it could work. I think Rose could work. I think there's some nice. What is it? The blue leader that gets ambush for 3, a 3/3. You pay 2. It can move into the ground game. I mean, if you get that and you draft that with Rose, and you can go in, ambush something, then heal it for 2. I think that's a pretty good play. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I feel good about Rose. I feel like there's something there that I feel like can surprise a lot of people.
All right, Dankest.
Well, I'm gonna say that I don't have as much faith in Rose's constructed legs. I don't think she is bad though. 4/6 that comes out on 5 is great. Like that part just automatically makes her leagues better than a lot of the other leaders in the game already. And her ability is not really online until the mid game. There aren't a lot of vehicles that are going to be coming out on 2 or 3 resources that actually will survive and be able to be healed for 2. So that's going to be a little bit tough to work with. There's also the fact that she doesn't play well with Star Wars Unlimited's mechanics, where if you attack, your vehicle is damaged, then you need to spend another action with Rose, so it gives your opponent time to respond. And even worse, if your vehicle took damage from either an event or was attacked, then if you want that vehicle to get its health back, you need to spend 2 actions. You need to spend 1 to attack and then 1 again with Rose to heal, which could let your opponent maybe bait and switch on you. So they give you that action to attack, and then they get you with their next action, so you've fallen a bit behind in the race, and that can be dicey. That being said, I think that Rose is, of all the Vigilance characters, the strongest one for Limited that we have seen so far, and she is going to be a menace at the pre-release. You are just going to be unable to take your opponent's units out. She's just going to be keeping them up all game. And the 4/6 is immense pressure that a lot of decks will fold against. So, think about those good things I said about Lando, and basically they apply here, except Rose doesn't have to pay for them because her action is free, and she comes out 2 turns earlier with the same aspects. So if you're forced to choose, definitely go with Rose at your pre-release, and yeah, she might be one of the best characters overall in that format.
Interesting. Okay, so where do you guys place her in terms of tier level?
You want me to go first? Okay, for me, I'm going to say B with A potential. And I might be higher than everyone. So this might be like the first time where we're gonna have to settle
yeah.
for a tier.
B with C potential for me. I'm ready to go that way, but B is also where I settle.
Man, I want to put her like top of C, low B.
Yeah.
So
all right, low B it is then.
low B.
For now.
All right.
But she's also the top of B. She's also at the top of B for the moment.
Well,
so
for now,
everybody wins.
Yeah, that's true.
We did it. Go team.
All right. Now we get to command. The fun aspect. I mean, what? Okay,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Command's nice.
Yeah. So we have Admiral Pete. Action. You can exhaust him to play a capital ship unit from your hand. It costs 1 less. And then epic action. If you control 5 or more resources, deploy this leader. And he's a 2/7 that says each capital ship unit you play costs 2 less. So, yeah, those capital ships are big, bad, and expensive, except when they're not. And yeah, there are some really powerful plays this character can make. I'm really skeptical because his game plan seems sort of gimmicky and a bit all in. But boy, when it works, it works. So I don't know. I feel like Piet's gonna be riding the seesaw from feeling like the best character in the world to making the players who sleeve up that deck feel silly. I just don't know where I land.
Dragonrider, would you like to go next? I'll go last on this one.
Okay. I actually am not usually a fan of Command, but he excites me. I like discounts and getting to play stuff cheaper. And if yeah, sure. Does it feel kind of all in? Like you gotta build a deck that's kind of a little bit heavier in capital ships? Sure. But man, I've wanted to play some of those capital ships for a while, and this might be my chance to do it. So I'm excited. 2-7, not the greatest stats, but the 7 health, as we talked about already, is kind of significant. So I like it, especially coming out at 5. Like 7 health is pretty significant to be able to stick around and at least get you 1, maybe 2 capital ships, ideally. And if not, it's kind of like as we say in Hearthstone, it's like a soft taunt, right? Like this is gonna be something that people want to remove as soon as they can. So it kind of can save some of your other stuff. But I feel like even if you get to play at least 1 discounted capital ship off of this, you're getting value. So I actually really like him. I think he's really cool, and I'm kind of excited to try out some capital ship deck building.
Oh yeah. I mean, that deck too, like from looking at the pool of capital ships, I think it's really going to be like a kind of beatdown style deck where you might top end with a few of the really expensive capital ships, but it's those 3 and 5 cost ones that are going to be the bread and butter of the strategy. And it will be really fun because those big space units will come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, things get out of hand for your opponent.
That's right. Yep, you play them discounted and then you go base. And I
Yep.
like that style of play.
Base is the place we know have to trade.
Yes.
Yeah, I think anytime you can play above curve and get units out um, for even 1 less is extremely valuable. Things like Outlaw Corona being able to come out on turn 1. Um, you can get, uh, you can deploy Piet uh, and then play Ruthless Raider for 4 um, as a capital ship, which is bonkers as one of the most valuable red villainy spaceships in the game. Um, and just so many good tools coming in that are also capital ships. Um, I think in the beginning of the set, Piet's going to be very good. I think there's just so many ways to build him. You could go mono green Piet, ramp up to the bigger capital ships. You could go Piet blue, get Avenger, the new Executor out early. You could go Piet red, get the new Devastator out early. I think as the set goes on, I think people are going to figure out how to keep Piet in check, especially if they're just trying to get one big unit out one after the other. Uh, Things like Power of the Dark Side, boom. Like there's that big capital ship you played and you got out early is gone. And I think he's going to have a hard time keeping up with aggro as well. If he has to focus on just trying to get one big capital ship out at a time and you flood the board with aggro and they can't really keep up with it, I think Piet's going to kind of fall behind in that aspect as well. Um, so high on Piet at the beginning. I think he's going to kind of fall off towards the end of the set. But that's just my feelings on Piet.
I think you put that very well. But You know what's even better than a well-formed, thoughtful opinion with lots of good rhetorical techniques?
Love it.
Distilling all of it down to one letter. And what is that letter, Marcus?
Oh, hold on. Let me take a look at his name. It begins with an A. Is that where we're going?
I love it.
I'm liking. I'll go first. I'm gonna say B above Rose. That's where I think he belongs.
Okay, interesting. Where on A were you thinking?
Where I was thinking?
Yeah.
I would consider in between Thrawn and Asajj.
Am I like the tiebreaker here? Like,
Yes,
because
it's up to you.
I was torn between A and B and I wasn't sure. Okay. All right. This is the point where these two get to pitch me some hot takes and try to convince me where we're gonna put this. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, if we have anyone in the chat that wants to try and skew Piet, because I know a lot of people are high on Piet. They think that he's going to be S tier. And I think quite possibly there's going to be some Piets that are so well constructed in the beginning and they're just taking down showdowns. And I feel like that's probably how it's going to start. And then it's going to kind of peter off. It's going to Piet off.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Piet entrench Piet. Good to see you. Good introduction. But yeah, I don't think his game plan is resilient enough to like make it through the set like you're saying, but boy, when you go turn 1 Corona and then turn 3 you're dropping something like Corvus or Salt Frigate. Oh boy. Like a 5/5 overwhelm raid 1 coming down that soon in the game is just really, really cracked. And if you squint, that ability is almost like Boba's, just with tons and tons of caveats. But if you squint, it is. So,
Well,
I mean, I see the vision, but
if you squint now, he's in B above Rose. So there we go.
B is for Boba Fett. Perfect. All right.
That's right. B is for banned.
We can't say that word.
I know. That's why we're saying
S
it.
tier is for suspended. That's what we'll say.
It's
Perfect.
true.
Wonderful.
And it is empty right now. Who knows how long?
Maybe for a little longer. What do we got next?
All right. Is it my turn to introduce?
Yeah, we're on
yes.
number.
Yes.
I get Darth Vader? Oh boy.
You do.
Okay. Darth Vader. So Darth Vader's leader ability, action, just exhaust, don't have to spend any resources. And if you attacked with a non-token vehicle unit this phase, create a TIE Fighter token. New token introduced this set. Tokens are 1/1 for TIE Fighters. Epic action. If you control 6 or more resources, you can deploy the leader as a pilot or on the ground. If it's on the ground, he's a 5/6, nothing else special. So just the stats. And when upgraded as a pilot on a vehicle, you can create 2 TIE Fighter tokens, and the attached unit gets +5/+5. So, should I go first with the analysis?
Yeah, hit us.
Go
hit
for
us
it.
with it.
All right. I love Vader. Cool character. So iconic. I'm a little underwhelmed by this leader. I think the TIE Fighters on their own, just getting a 1/1 out, doesn't feel that impactive. There's so many ways just to assign 1 damage and just get rid of it. There are certain cards that can boost space units, such as the new Victor leader unit, where every other space unit gets +1/+1. Now you start dropping 2/2s in space for free, as long as you're attacking with a non-token vehicle. The deploy, I wish the ground unit side had a little bit of something else, especially deploying on 6 as a 5/6. Strong, but not as strong as that first set Vader that flips on 7 that's a 5/8. And then when you attack, you can deal 2 damage to another unit. I wish they gave something a little bit to the Vader unit on the ground. But not bad when you attach him as a pilot. You attach him as a pilot, +5/+5 is huge. You gotta be ready for that if he deploys as a pilot and creating 2 TIE fighter tokens. So you're getting +7/+7 total on his deploy. Whether or not those TIE units are gonna be sticking around to the next phase to be able to use them is a whole different story. So I don't know. I'm a little down on Vader.
All right. Well, I'm glad they didn't put anything on Vader's other side, because I'll come in with the real smoking hot take here. This is the strongest Darth Vader card that we've seen in Star Wars Unlimited. Period. No stop. This is really, really good. Even if you don't end up playing many or any command units, this sure does share an aspect or two with Kylo's TIE Silencer, which notably is a vehicle. And what this deck looks like to me is the most aggro Vader we have, where you are just jamming this unit as early as possible and then trying to spread out with other fighters, maybe even something like Crackshot V-Wings really early in the game, and just trying to go as aggressively as you can. There definitely are some Anthem cards and other pump effects that you can play to give your unit stats, and it's not impossible from turn 2 onwards to basically be pumping out TIE fighters every turn until you flip Vader. And that adds up fast. So I'm pretty high on this character, and I do think that he is gonna really come out with a vengeance as one of the better swarm decks in the format.
I feel like you said it right when you said smoking because it's S tier. That's
Suspended?
it.
Yeah.
That's the take. That's it. I love it. I love Vader. I think the stats are super cool. I think creating a lot of tokens is super cool, and they're gonna be really annoying to deal with. Even if they're little 1/1s, you're gonna have to have removal for them, and if you don't, that could be potentially a lot of chip damage that starts to get through, and that can be really obnoxious. So I don't know. I like it.
All right. Did we break Marcus with the take too hot? Are you gonna take us
Sorry.
down from space back to the ground?
My mic was muted. I was doing some great reactions. I will say having the token units is nice just to absorb like that 1 indirect damage from times. So there is some use there. But I don't know. I mean, you drop out things like Snoke, if you can ramp up and get a Snoke out, and then all of a sudden those ties go away. Everything gets -2/-2, and even with the Victor leader out, it's not there. I guess worst case scenario, you have a bunch of tokens out that you can attach pilots to, so not terrible there. Honestly, I don't want to pull down your guys' rankings too much. I was gonna put them right around like a B tier with the Rose and Piet. I could settle at A. I could settle at A tier. But if me settling at A tier is gonna pull them up to the S tier with you guys, then so be it. I would love to see Vader be an S tier and for him to just
Sam,
go off, and I would love nothing more than for me to be absolutely wrong.
Looking at Twitch chat, I now realize that I am contractually compelled to say that Vader is S tier, so put him up there. I can do nothing else.
All right, is S tier where we're settling? We're going
I guess
for
he's
it.
always S tier.
Always S tier. All right, perfect.
I'll have my critiques,
Okay,
and they'll be in my back pocket.
perfect. We got him. All right. Are we ready for the next one?
Yeah, Don,
Let's
take
do
it
it.
away.
All right.
What do we got?
Next up, we have Admiral Haldo. Action 1, resource and exhaust. Give a resistance unit or a unit with a resistance upgrade on it, +2/+2 for this phase. Epic action at 6 or more resources. You can deploy the leader, and her stats are 3/8. She is a resistance and official. With on attack, you may give another resistance unit or unit with a resistance upgrade on it +2/+2 for this phase. So, as the undeployed leader, it's a 1 and exhaust, 1 resource and exhaust to give +2/+2. On the epic, she becomes an on attack. So, pretty interesting there. Also, command villainy. Don't know if I mentioned that, but what do you guys think? I'll let you guys start with this one.
Well, I mean, Holdo. I don't think Holdo is that much of a villain, is she? She's got to be heroism, right?
Did I say villainy? I meant heroism. I got
All
villainy
right.
on the brain with all these cards that I'm hyped about.
I mean, I always have villainy on the brain, so. When it comes to Holdo, I think there's just not enough resistance yet to build a strong enough deck. I mean, one of the strongest cards in the game in heroism is the Poe unit on 5. But I'm not sure if that alone is really enough to try and get Holdo into a higher tier. Um, I would love to make a resistance deck. I think the new Black 1 unit that comes down um, on turn 1 is great. The new Poe pilot unit on 4 that can create an X-Wing and then you can attach them as a pilot to something is great. I just don't know how often you're going to have resistance units out to use Holdo's ability. And then when she comes out on 6, being a 3/8 means she'll probably stick around. Um, but whether or not you're going to be able to have a resistance character out there to get the on attack off, to give them the +2/+2, to make use of it, I think runs into. I'm not going to say exactly the same similar problem as Lando, where it's too conditional in that way, but it is conditional, and I think it's a little bit difficult to set up the way that the resistance is now.
Yeah. And I think she's even more conditional than Lando is. And in my mind, to make this character good, it would take a resistance token coming out, like a token upgrade, for her to really get the most out of her ability. So, we've seen traits on tokens. The TIE fighters and the X-Wings have traits. So if maybe there was something like experience again that could have that resistance trait in the future, I would give this character another look, but it is just really, really difficult to spend 1 for a temporary 2/2 in a game where damage is permanent and placed with counters. And unless there is some resistance beatdown strategy that can afford to pay this tax to beat over defenses and get that early pressure, I'm just not seeing it. But very, very good draft character again. Being able to trade up is nice, and I don't know. I think that she fills this nice, wonderful gap that we have in our tier list in the C tier. She's the perfect person for that, but probably not one I'm going to be putting in many of my decks at first.
Low B, C is where I was thinking, so I'm good with C.
I'm good with C as well. I think that seems to be a good spot for a holdo. Hopefully some good resistance cards come out in the future, but until then I think C is suitable.
All right. So, next up, we got our good friend Wedge Antilles. So this time he's Rebel Pilot, Leader. We got our action. You can exhaust him to play a card from your hand using Piloting. It costs 1 less. Okay, already I'm very happy. Epic action if you control 5 or more resources. All right, all right. He's common, hold up. So he's a 3/6 if you just deploy him. And if he's a pilot, comes in with 3/4. Attached unit is a leader unit. It gains on attacked. The next piloting card you play this phase cost 1 less. Includes piloting cost. Huh. So Wedge I think is pretty exciting. I like that you are, with a relatively straightforward condition, able to cheat on resource costs a bit. The fact that piloting is the thing you're getting is a little scary, but he is really nice in just being able to basically commit an exhaust for 1 resource. That's pretty good. And then I think he's a little bit understated on the back end, but that pilot attachment can have some synergies, and if you have units that care about getting pilots, Wedge could be your guy. I don't think he's too impressive. I don't think he's, like, bad either. No super clear flaws besides being vulnerable to removal, but good rock solid leader.
I agree. I think I really like Wedge. I think he is going to be a fun leader to play. A lot of good pilot cards coming out. I mean, the new Luke pilot, that's in the same aspect as Wedge, just makes sense. Um, just being able to get any of those pilots out for 1 cheaper. You have the new R2 that you could just get out for free because it's a 1-cost pilot upgrade. There's a lot of 1-cost pilot upgrades like that. If you want to go Wedge Yellow, you have the new legendary Han pilot. That's great as well if you get some Falcons out there. The flip on 5, I think, is super useful. I could see him being, great for limited in sealed or draft. Um, I I would love him in constructed if the kind of play style you want to play wasn't already better by some other leaders that we're going to be talking about later. And I think that's the one downside of Wedge is that, why play Wedge when there might be some other leaders that just are a little bit stronger in a quick aggro type matchup. Um, and I think that might just be Wedge's downfall. But I I still like Wedge. I think compared to the other command options, I feel like Wedge kind of feels like a breath of fresh air, where everything else kind of feels like you're playing for the long game, and Wedge kind of feels like, okay, I can move a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, get my cards out, and then just try and close out the game before my opponent. Um, so I like Wedge for those reasons.
Yeah, I honestly don't have anything to add on top of what you guys said. So, like, I'm right there with you. I completely agree with everything you guys said. He feels pretty good, pretty solid. Like, not the best for sure, not the worst. I do like that he's rebel, though. I will say, that's the only thing that I think that I have to add is that there is that rebel trait that you can work with as well. So I do kind of like that, and maybe something will come out of that as well.
Yeah. And honestly,
Absolutely.
skimming through the database here, The pilots for heroism, and especially kind of like vigilance heroism and command, are truly rock solid. I I think that they gave Wedge some great tools to play with. I'm excited about this leader. So
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
where are we dropping though? That's the question.
Ugh. My feeling is he's a B with A potential.
Yeah,
Um,
be above Pete. I can go for that. That's exactly where I'd put him. I'm
That-
down.
Yeah,
yeah,
we all agree on that, I think.
consensus. I like it.
Yes. All right. Well,
I
that
think
was easy then.
a lot of people might have issue with putting Piet in between Wedge and Rose, um, just because some people are just so high on Piet. But I agree. I think I would rather play Wedge and build a deck around Wedge than Piet. I think it has much stronger upside potential.
True, but at the same time, you can just throw your dice, mulligan your hand until you find the Corona, and they never have the removal. Just not possible.
Never.
That's
It's a
true.
winning
Yeah,
strategy.
yeah. I mean, 100% success rate, really.
Yeah, I don't think anyone playing that has lost yet in an event. So, you know,
That's true. I have
jot
yet
why
to
don't,
see it be defeated.
jot that down. All right.
Yeah.
Will the next character be defeated? Is the next leader going to be the first bad Boba Fett?
Oh boy. I get to introduce Vader and Boba Fett. This
I
is
know this was
one of my
rigged.
favorite days. I love it. Okay, so Boba Fett. When you deal non-combat damage, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, deal 1 indirect damage to a player. That player assigns 1 unpreventable damage among their base and units. Epic action, deploying on 6 as a leader or pilot. When you deploy him as a leader on the ground game, he is a 4/7. When you attach him as an upgrade to a vehicle, you can deal up to 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of units, and you give +4/+4 on the stats. Um, I think this is very good. In some of the playtesting I've done, Boba is a hard leader to work around. I think there's some clever ways you can build Boba. You could do Boba Green, Boba Yellow, I think is going to be the most common with how much good synergy there is with the Fett's Fire Spray, Triple Dark Raid. Um, and I feel like there's a dark horse contender for Boba Red and doing a mono red with the aggro event card. I feel like that's going to really take off this set, being able to remove 2 upgrades and then also have another option of drawing a card, dealing 4 damage, or re-reading a unit that has 3 or less power is going to be huge. Um, but Boba Fett as a leader overall, with built-in almost removal when you attach him as a pilot by just doing 4 damage to something, or divided and taking out 2 units, while you're chipping away with indirect damage before he gets deployed, I think is great. I think there's so many ways to deal non-combat damage, especially with indirect damage from units. So if a unit has a built-in attack and your opponent deals indirect damage, and then you can exhaust Boba Fett within the same action to deal another just 1 indirect damage, it's hard to argue with that. That's some good value right there.
Oh yeah, I love this. And before I had mentioned how Rose doesn't play fantastically with Star Wars Unlimited mechanics, but Boba's the opposite. So that deploy as upgrade is so powerful. And when you play him, that is both developing pressure because you're adding 4/4 of stats to your board, but you're also removing units from your opponent's board. And what happens with that is your opponent can answer the stats, and if they do, they've already lost their units that could have had a chance to attack and push more damage or make good trades. So you've come out ahead and basically covered 2 options with 1 action that also costs 0 because you're playing it as your leader. So Boba, super, super good. The trend is not getting bucked. Boba is still super strong. Only caveat I'd give is that in draft, you might not have the synergies you need to take advantage of indirect damage. So be a little bit careful about that, since an extra, maybe being generous, 3 damage to your opponent's base in a draft game is not as powerful as some of these other effects. But boy, when you play him in for that damage, it sure is. So yeah, Boba great. What do you think, Don?
The only thing that's catching me up is the 6 resources. That does feel maybe slightly slow, but still fantastic overall. I mean, dealing that damage, as you guys have said, is great. The stats seem really good. There's a lot of potential for synergies, no matter kind of which way you're looking at it. But yeah, seems very, very solid. I think I would want to put this at S tier, but I think for me personally, I'm going to lean A tier just because that 6 resources is a little bit slow for me. So I'm going to say A tier, top of A tier.
I'm gonna try and pull him into S tier. I think
Ooh, all right.
if Vader is S tier, then I think Boba's S tier. I think it's only fair. And
I think, yeah, Boba. I'll. The thing is, let's be spicy. Boba below Vader in S tier, or Boba above Vader? Where are we going?
I mean, you guys know how I feel.
All right. Well,
I think
you know what?
Vader's too high
Mm,
personally. Personally, no shots. Vader's a great leader. I think Boba is stronger.
all right. No, you heard him. Put him up there. Boom.
All right, let's do it. I'm good with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Boom.
We're not gonna. You're not twisting our arms, man. Don't worry about it. All right. So now we got the Chrome Dome. I cannot believe that epithet is real. Don, who's the next character? Who's
Love
our
it.
next leader?
Next up we have Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma is an aggression villainy. I'm going to say that properly this time. Aggression villainy. With an action to exhaust. If you played a first order card this phase, deal 1 damage to a base. Epic action is 5 or more resources to deploy the leader. Does come out as a 4/6 with the first order and trooper traits. And then on attack, if you played another first order card this phase, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to a base. All right. I feel like I might be biased, but I really like this one. I love aggression. Personally, aggression and cunning are my favorites. So aggression, pinging. I've been playing Sabine, so already like the 1 damage to base thing. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But going over to the villainy side of things, I'm like, okay, all right, you got my attention there, Phasma. Let's go. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. I I'm really high on Phasma. Phasma is what I wish they made Kylo. As a huge Kylo fan, I wish they kind of had that first order synergy, gave him a little bit more to kind of work with. I think Phasma ECL is going to be so strong. I think there's a lot of good tools when it comes to first order cards. The Phasma unit itself, the 5/6 on 5, that also kind of works with first order. You have tons of good turn 1 plays with first order Stormtrooper that does indirect damage. So even if it doesn't stick around to the next phase, it's a 1-drop, and at worst it gets killed, and you do 1 indirect damage to something else. And then you tap Phasma and do 1 damage to base. Same thing with General Pride, General Hux, the Special Forces TIE Fighter, Kylo's TIE Fighter, the Kylo Ren unit from set 2, ECL that in, and that's a first order card they can hit for 8 with an ECL. Von Reg's TIE Interceptor, I think, is one of the strongest cards being introduced this set. I'm pretty high on it. The only downside is, I think, similar to Holdo, I wish there was just some more first order cards so you can really build a full strong deck of just first order in multiple aspects. I think that's, for me, the only downside. Because, I mean, deploying on 5 and being a 4/6, it's pretty good stats.
Yeah, and I think for me it's really hard after just seeing Boba, then looking at this leader, Phasma, who has the same aspects, has a bit more conditional damage that she can push through, and I think 1 to a base and indirect damage are going to be pretty similar in the early game, so I don't think their value really differs all that much there. But just that earlier flip for reasonable stats versus the later flip for that big impact, I think sends it Boba's way for me. And I just don't know if Phasma can compete with the other leaders who are affecting the board sooner in the game for an aggression aggro strategy. But no slouch, like very good card. It's just a matter of, uh, an abundance of what riches, where those aggression players who want to pick a leader that comes down early and does some damage have lots of good options that Phasma has to get over. So yeah, not super high on her prospects, but in a vacuum, strong leader.
So where do each of you want to place Phasma on the tier list?
I want to put her next to Rose, but I'm not sure where.
Oh, really? I was going to say on the low end of A next to Asajj, or the high part of B
Yeah,
above Wedge. Um, for me, I feel like that's probably where I would put it. If there was some more strong first order cards that can play towards the curve, then I think she's
sure.
a solid A.
Yeah, I would agree there.
Yeah, and it's not to say that the first order cards that we do have aren't good. Like, right, they're good cards, and I like that there's a lot of turn 1 plays with the first order, so you can start kind of doing that right away. I think you could have it easily 12 units in your deck, 4 different types of 1 or 2 cost units that are first order that feel good playing in that turn 1. Um, it's the higher end that you kind of have to worry about.
Yeah.
But I just think that ECL with Phasma is going to be a strong deck, um, which is why like I kind of want to put her in A tier because of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of, if you take any aggression villainy leader and you put them with ECL, it slaps.
Yeah.
Like that deck is, that deck is great. That's what I play at my local, by the way. Like I'm with it, but there's so many good options to pick from that it's hard. Like
Yeah,
it.
and what really makes me think Phasma is in that A tier is if you're gonna do villainy, a red villainy leader with ECL, you could do Kylo, but he burns out quick. You can do Maul, Vader, uh, Grand Inquisitor, but they flip on 6 or later. And then you have Phasma, which feels like a great spot to be kind of that middle of the road, doesn't burn out as fast as Kylo, and hits the board earlier. And always can sneak in a little bit of ramp if you need to, if you want to do like a resupply or super laser tech just to try and get her out of phase earlier. I think that's pretty nice as well.
For
Um,
sure.
so I don't think she's the strongest aggro villainy that we'll be reviewing today. I still think Boba's better, and I think the next one up is better than Phasma. Um, but I think low end A feels right for Phasma.
Interesting. Yeah. Honestly, I was gonna say that exact same thing, but my reasoning for putting her at the top of B. So
Yeah,
so like
I think that
top
all of
of
our
B,
reasonings
low end
really.
A is yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with either of those.
Let's do top NB. I think
Okay.
All right.
I'm outvoted there, and still the top of B
I,
is I think a good spot for Phasma.
I'm so excited to talk about the next one. I'm just like,
Me
let's
too.
go. That's yeah.
I know.
And if there
We've
weren't
been
a
working
couple
up to this
leaders
one.
like that one that I want, that I liked as much, I probably would put Phasma in A. But I just feel
That's
like
fair.
top of B is like okay, because we can't put like all the leaders in A, even though sometimes I want to be
We
optimistic about all the leaders. But
we can. We have that power, but
we can, but maybe we shouldn't.
I'm always cursed by recency bias. Whatever leader we're talking about, I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's
That's the
amazing.
best one we've talked about,
Yeah,
except Lando.
well,
except
um,
Lando. Poor
just
Lando.
redo the list. Just start stacking them in the opposite order. You can, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that is clickbait thumbnail or Twitter post bait right there.
Beautiful. All right, we got Major Vomrag, the Red Baron. So first order pilot, action exhaust, play a vehicle unit from your hand, paying its cost. If you do, give another unit +1/+0 for this phase. Epic action, control 4 or more resources, choose one, deploy this leader, or deploy this leader as an upgrade on a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot. So comes in as a 2/5 vanilla if you just deploy them. And if you go the piloting route, attached unit is a leader unit. It gains on attack. You may give another unit in this arena +1/+0 for this phase, and it's a +3/+3 boost. I like Vonreg. Efficient ability, free +1/+0 as long as you're playing vehicles. And deploying on 4 is ridiculously good for 3/3 and a point of damage because really you're almost always going to want to play the pilot side of this, but in a bind, free 2/5 doesn't hurt either. This is just so efficient. I'm a big fan.
Yep. This is one of the two I think that maybe three, because I am really excited about Vader as well. But this is one of the few leaders that I'm like super excited for. Again, I've been playing Sabine, so the aggression coming out on 4, I'm kind of already like accustomed to and excited for. So this is like, okay, yes, I like this. I like being able to have some decent stats and get that out early and be able to add some extra attack to something else is sweet. So yeah, I'm all for it. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree. Von Reg is so strong. Being able to deploy on 4, being able to use the ability without having to use any resources, you should be building a deck that has majority vehicle units, so it should pretty much always be useful. The Von Reg's TIE Interceptor, I think, is going to be one of the strongest red villainy space units in the game. Drop it down on 3. You can deploy Von Reg on it on turn 3 once you get to 4 resources, and then all of a sudden you have that powerful space unit with raid 1. I think it can move super fast. I think this is going to be the fastest red villainy aggro deck you can make. And I'm really excited to see what people do with it. I think there's a couple different ways in which you can build Von Reg. And as someone who played a lot of Kylo, that also flips on 4, that also tries to move as fast as possible to close out a game, I think Von Reg is right there. I think the potential is sky high.
Yeah, and I think with all of the vehicle units in this set as well, that Von Reg is going to be good in constructed and in limited formats as well. So that's another reason why I'm really like excited for Von Reg and really kind of thinking very highly of him.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't ask much of you and gives you a lot in return. And, those characters, the
generous.
leaders, yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
He's great. And you know what generous ends in? Ass.
I think so too. I think generous also ends in ass.
But where are we putting Von Reg?
That is the question. Probably
I
bottom
think
of S.
I absolutely.
Yeah.
I would put Von Reg in bottom of S as well.
Yep. Same.
Right where the S is in generous at the end.
Perfect.
Wow.
See, it's this tier list is making
It's just
itself.
it's making itself, really.
I love it.
All right. And as the riggings continue, Marcus, who do we got next?
Oh,
Which
look at that. I get to introduce Luke Skywalker. Oh, love this Duck Duck Goose game of all the greatest characters. We got to start switching up the order. I feel like I'm robbing you guys. Okay, so Luke Skywalker, heroic red. Action, exhaust the unit. If you attacked with a fighter unit this phase, deal 1 damage to a unit. So you get to assign that damage, which is nice. If you control 6 or more resources, you can choose to deploy him as a leader or as a pilot upgrade. As a leader on 6, he is a 5/6 stats. Vanilla again, nothing too crazy there. But when you attach him as a pilot, if it's a fighter vehicle, it gains on attack, you may deal 3 damage to a unit, and it gives the 4/5 stat line to the vehicle as well. I like Luke. I think deploying on 6 is a little rough, especially when his buddy Wedge gets to deploy on 5. I feel like a 5 deploy would have been a little bit sweeter for Luke. But the synergy with fighters, I think, is very suitable and fitting and works out great. You get some good early fighter units, whether it's tokens or some good turn 1 fighters, both in red and in other aspects. I feel like Luke with green makes a lot of sense. With the blue leader fighter that can get a fighter into the ground arena, which is pretty nice. I can't remember off the top of my head if the ground snow speeder units are fighters as well. But if they are, then that's even better for Luke's ability. I feel like the fun factor of Luke is high up there with the thematic build you can make that feels competitive at the same time. And if you need to deploy him on the ground at a 5/6, it's not terrible. You can get some good damage in if you're able to swing in with him at least once. If there's too many roadblocks in space, it's nice to have that option.
Definitely. Also pretty nice, I mean, I'm sure that it is designed this way, but Blue Leader plus Luke Skywalker is a really, really sweet combo. Be able to come in with that ambush, or later in the game have it be a 5/5, so it's durable. And then you can also then snipe something with Luke's action. Pretty great. And I think that even though sometimes it can be slower to start up, having an action that impacts units is at least reasonable. It's just a question of whether he can get it earlier enough in the game for it to really take off. So,
Yeah.
where's Luke gonna go, Don? Give us yours. Tell us.
Luke seems sweet. I think I'm gonna put it with the other 6 that we kind of have talked about already. The other 6 resources, and I want to put him in A.
All right.
I feel like that's suitable. I feel like it's not game breaking, but you can build a strong enough deck around him to make it feel competitive.
For sure.
But where in A does he go?
I think the
That's
bottom.
question.
I'm fine with that. I think trying to get enough fighter units might be a little difficult. But you might only need a few. But I think it's strong enough to put him at the end of A.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Last of the
Alright.
aggro.
Here we go. That's right. We got our good buddy Poe, which I also find so funny as a name because my German Shepherd we named Potato and I call him Poe. So yeah. All right, but we have Poe. Aggression, heroism, action, 1 resource, and exhaust. Flip this leader and attach him as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. The epic action, if you control 5 or more resources, you can deploy him as a leader. So, as a ground unit, Poe is a 4/6, and as a attachment as an upgrade, pilot is +2/+1. With an action to pay 1 resource, attach this upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. Use this ability only once each round. Super fun and flexible, and like really kind of fills that story, that kind of like flavor of being able to just like he's a pilot of different vehicles, right? Like can just jump to different vehicles and like fly or use different vehicles. So I think that flavor wise is super super cool, and I really like it. Unfortunately for me, the upgrade stat line is super low, but that is because you can move them around and use that so much. But the 2/1 does make me a little sad.
This card is so cursed. Like, for one, he's Poe Dameron. I can fly anything, but he can only fly vehicles. What were they thinking? Come on. And 2, being able to basically do that action, right? When he actually is your leader, put him on something, that thing attacks. Then you can do another action, put him on a different thing, that thing attacks. And basically you can double dip on this 2/1 every turn in the mid to late game. That's actually really great. And I've talked about leader abilities and how I like them to be free, but giving something a permanent 2/1 or permanent-ish 2/1 for 1 is really good. And if you decide that thing isn't useful and want to spread that one elsewhere, not a problem. I'm a big fan of this, actually thinking about it. And 4/6 on 5, pretty thick. I like Poe.
Yeah, move over, Sabine. I think we have a new red heroic leader that can really set the aggro game up. It's interesting that when he gets attached as a pilot, he's not a leader. I think it's fitting to his character, especially in The Last Jedi, when Leia's big critique of him is he's not a leader. He's not being a leader for most of the movie. Which also opens it up to removal for non-leader type units. So he could be defeated more easily because of that. Things like Vanquish, things like, I mean, you name it. Any kind of non-leader removal can take it out as an upgrade. But saying that, being able to just keep attaching him as a pilot is great. He can be taken, which is interesting because I talked about this today with some friends. So if he's attached to a unit and that unit gets traitorous or taken by Palp, he can go to the other side and get put onto your opponent's board. But you still control the upgrade according to the new rules. So then you could just pay 1 resource
No.
and then attach him to one of your other friendly vehicles, and boom, you got your Poe back. Not only that, but he could actually be on the ground game twice after being defeated the first time, because the new card Eject, which lets you eject the pilot and then move him to the ground game, can work on Poe. So you could spend that 1 resource, put him onto a vehicle, and then all of a sudden hit eject, and you got him back on the ground again. I think also being able to lane dodge vehicles, going from space to ground by paying that one action, is extremely valuable as well. Um, it's just nice having options, and I think Poe gives you that. One resource to make something a 2/1 is really nice, especially if you don't have any other like good options in your hand and you're just trying to use your resource economy. I think Poe is great.
Yeah, I am so with you, and just eject as well, giving that flexibility is also nice because, believe it or not, one of the problems this character could have is that he is stuck on a unit when turn 3 rolls around or turn 4 rolls around, and you want to flip your guy on 5 resources, but he is just stuck out there piloting some ship, and you're getting 2/1 instead of 4/6. So, if you can eject your own Poe and then can actually get him in the fight, maybe unexhaust him, have him crash into something, then redeploy him and then go again. Like, those are some pretty nifty tricks you can pull off, and I am really, really high on this guy. So what are we thinking? Where are we putting Poe? D is for Dameron?
Ain't no way.
I
Goes in
all the way
A.
on the other side.
Yep.
I
All
think
right.
above Boba S tier.
Yep.
I think,
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, I think
And
he's so good.
All right.
yeah, I think we'll have to adjust our grading curve in a little bit, but I like the position.
All right.
Perfect.
We're
Okay.
into the last aspect now.
That's right. All right, Dankest. Who we got next?
Right. We've got Admiral Trench. Great, great Clone Wars character. Action, exhaust, discard a card that costs 3 or more from your hand. If you do, draw a card. And he is also a separatist official. Action, 3 costs, exhaust. If you control 6 or more resources, deploy this leader. So he has a deploy cost, which is interesting. Not something we see often. But that action isn't epic. So very, very, very interesting. And then comes in as a 4/5. It says when deployed, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. An opponent discards 2 of them. Draw one of the remaining cards and discard the other. So, really, really odd character. This just screams to me that you want to have some sort of reanimation strategy. Bring back those big units that you are discarding into your discard pile and then getting them back. And, this kit is designed for attrition. Like, it's cool that you can filter out those expensive cards in the early game and see more of your deck. That intrinsically is very strong, but later on, you don't really get a leader, but instead you get this 3-cost 4/5 that draws you the the best of your worst 2 of your 4 cards that you see. So this character does so many complicated things, but if the card pool is there, really, really strong. So, I don't know. I'm a little lost in the sauce on Trench.
I am not a fan. I don't like this leader. Not to my play style. I know some people do like this play style. I don't think there's enough to mess around with your discard pile to kind of find extreme value with it. Obviously, the best card is Palpatine's Return. If you want to discard Mauls, if you want to discard Vader's, I mean, if you want to go Admiral Trench Red, you can do the Palpatine unit, or Savage. But if that's your strategy that you're kind of building around, you're going to have trouble in the early game. I think spending 3 resources just to deploy him, even though it's not an epic action, you can keep deploying him. But then those are 3 resources you can't use for something else that turn. And when you get to that 6 or more resources and then you're using half of them to deploy your leader, and then you're discarding 3 cards total to draw 1, it's too situational for me. I feel like it's too chaotic, and I think just what cards are available right now, it's not there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, looking at what can interact with the discard pile right now, it just does not seem like there are a lot of ways to get back the things you are putting in the bin. And if you have to pay 6 with Palpatine's return, that's not exactly cheating. It's pretty honest.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's just me, but if you read this ability to me, I would say it was vigilance. So it being cunning just like feels kind of weird to me. I don't know. Like it's also not my play style either, so I'm just like I don't know. I don't see it. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, putting both Trench and Afra with kind of similar mechanics where they play with the discard in cunning, just it doesn't seem right. I feel like if it was command, different, right? Because the command event lets you bring a unit back from your discard pile into your hand and you get some value there. So you can spend 4 resources, do another action, and then also take a unit back. And I think you're right, Don. I think it being in cunning just kind of weakens it even further.
Yeah, I'm really confused on what they were trying to do with this guy, but I don't know. I guess being able to discard like half of your deck, maybe, and draw a different card is sort of okay. I'm thinking above Holdo and C, but that's it. I'm not thrilled about this character.
I was
I was
thinking
gonna put him
D
next to
for
Lando.
discard. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna put him
D.
above Lando, but
Yeah.
he's hanging out with Lando.
Surely draw a card is surely cycle your expensive cards to draw cards you can play is better, right? Infinite value, being able to redeploy him. Don't think about it too much in sealed, how many cards you have to discard off the top of your deck. Really don't consider it.
One way or the other,
D
the
for
game's gonna end
don't.
fast.
Don't think about it. Don't play it. Don't do anything with it. Discard it from your selection. That's it. D.
Yeah, I'm good with D for Trench. Ugh, just such a cool concept, but without the tools to execute on it. But it's funny because you put something that's like 4 cost, bring a unit back, and it's over. This guy's great. So he's almost there. Just maybe next year.
Oh, is it my turn again?
It is.
I feel bad for stealing Rio from Don. So I'm willing to give up my spot so Don can talk about Rio first.
Okay, well we'll switch. We'll switch.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate that because yes, I am. This is probably Von Reg very excited about, but also very excited for Rio. I don't know why. I know why because sweet, and it fit with the cards that I got to reveal. So I feel like also personally, I'm like, I always want the cards that I reveal and the things that work with what I reveal to be good, just like for bias reasons. But that's okay. So we have Rio Durant, a villainy cunning. See, look, I'm getting better. I'm not saying the wrong things here. Villainy cunning. I also love cunning. but for its main action, 1 resource and exhaust to attack with a space unit. It gets +1/+0 and gains Saboteur for this attack. The epic action is if you control 5 or more resources, you can deploy this leader or deploy it as an upgrade on a friendly vehicle unit that doesn't have a pilot. And either way you look at it, Rio is a 3/5. 3 attack and 5 health worth of stats, whether it is a ground unit or an upgrade. The difference is, as a ground unit, does have Saboteur, and then the attached unit is a leader unit if you play it as a pilot, and it also gains Saboteur. If it's a transport, it also gets +1/+0. Yeah, pretty sweet. I am also a huge fan of the equivalent stats. That just feels really solid to me. 3/5, not the worst stats. Like, again, pretty solid. Just like kind of middle, like middle of the road kind of stats for 5. But man, being able to play it for the same stats as a ground unit or as the upgrade feels really, really sweet to me, and that's one of the things that really sells me on this leader. But again, also getting to attack with something and give it an extra attack also feels pretty great. So I am really loving Rio.
Yeah, I really like Rio too. I think it's nice they gave, one of the pilot leaders a benefit on the ground side as well. I think 3/5 Saboteur is fantastic if you don't want to attach them to a pilot, or you don't have a vehicle ready. I think it's still very valuable at a 5 deploy. There's so many good transport ships when it comes to cunning, especially in villainy, and as well as like other aspects as well. I think there's just so many good tools for Rio. Having Saboteur is fantastic. You don't have to worry about Sentinels, getting around anything once you upgrade that transport ship. It also gets +1 to attack, so it becomes a 4/5 on 5 deploy as a pilot. And it's not a bad leader action, right? I mean, attack with a space unit, it gets +1 and gains Saboteur for this attack for 1 resource cost. It's kind of like having the set 3 breaking in event with 1 less attack power and for 1 less resource cost, because I believe breaking in was it's a 2 cost +2 gain Saboteur. So just always having that ability with Rio is great, especially if you have a ready space unit and you put a pilot on it, and then all of a sudden someone drops a Sentinel and you're just sitting there being like, okay, am I going to run my vehicle that I just powered up with a pilot into the Sentinel? It's like you have an option now. You have Rio, who for 1 resource, get around it, hit base, and try and close out the game. I really like this leader.
I just cannot believe they would do this to Lando, where, we have poor Lando here who's just trying to put shield tokens on things, and then Rio has to come in and rain on Lando's parade. Wow. I do like the character, though, and one thing that is interesting is for a lot of the characters in Star Wars Unlimited that are really strong, their leader ability tends to be really front-loaded and good in the early game. And Rio, I think, is the opposite, where this gives some inevitability, where your opponent isn't able to wall up, they can't really stop you, and as long as you have the space units, you are going to keep churning in that consistent damage turn after turn after turn. Deploying on 5, good stats, especially on the upgrade. Being able to hit something with a relevant 4/5 is pretty cool. And just crash in. Like, definitely a different play style from Boba and from Poe. But a pretty interesting kind of more mid-rangey to attrition pilot leader that can just break other attrition decks that want to go a little slower. So I don't know how strong Rio is necessarily, but I do think he has a pretty good niche and is a character that probably should see some use in the competitive format. So yeah, I'm in the B train for Rio. I'm into it. What about you guys?
I was gonna say low end A. I think either on either side of Luke in the A tier, I feel like is pretty good. You can even make the argument above Ventress, um, just because of how versatile it could be with that style of play. It's not locked into only transport, even though transports definitely help when it gets deployed. But it works with any space unit, which makes it, a little bit better than Luke's fighter mechanic. Um, Makes it a little bit better than trying to focus grit heavy with Ventress. I think, you know, maybe in between Ventress and Thrawn. I think it might be a good spot for him.
Yeah. I know like my concern would be that he has a bit of a tough time dealing with early aggression just because the tools that he has access to are not the greatest with cunning villainy. Like there are good ones, but he's not at the top of it. But if he's able to kind of make it to that late game and he is not facing down tons of pressure, he will crumple other opponents. So I could go an A below Luke or B above Phasma. Those are like my spots. But Don, break this tie. Where are we going? Where are we putting Rio?
All right. Well, I was thinking high B, but I'm gonna let my bias win, and we're gonna go upper A, put it between Thrawn and Ventress.
Oh
I
wow!
like it.
All right.
I
All
like
right.
it. I
All
I don't
right.
know. I just think it's so flexible and good in multiple formats, which is why I'm like, yeah, we can do A. We can do the upper part
Yeah,
of A.
and I think the
Yeah.
tools like Triple Dark Raid, just getting a spaceship out and readied and back to hand, putting it back out again. It's just so versatile. Cunning villainy is great. All right, should we? We went out of order.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I mean,
yeah.
surely you're gonna get a character that no one's heard of, Marcus. Go next. Who is it?
Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. So action, one resource, exhaust the leader. You can exhaust a non-leader unit. If you do, its controller creates an X-Wing token. When you have 6 resources, you can use the epic action. No pilot, can just go to ground. He is a 3/8, and on attack, you may exhaust a unit. If you do, its controller creates an X-Wing token. I keep looking at this one. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know the strategy of exhausting a non-leader unit and then letting the controller create an X-Wing token. I would think you would want to be able to, as the controller of Admiral Akbar, you would want to create X-Wing tokens. But exhausting your own units doesn't sound great. And exhausting enemy units is nice, but then your opponent gets to create an X-Wing token, get a 2/2 in space. So, and the 3/8 on 6, it's not game changing. Yeah,
I love this guy. This is
do you?
this is like such a me character. This is so mean. So there are a few things about this that are subtle. So you'll notice there that it says non-leader, but not non-token. So you can get your clones going. You can get whatever little one-cost guys that have minor effects out there, and you can essentially pump out X-wings off of one of those. Pretty neat. Late in the game, you can say to your opponent, no, 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 your ground units don't get to attack. I'm putting an X-wing in space. By the way, here is this board clear that hits space. And or you can just have a big sentinel or some other space unit that can shut it down. Like this is not necessarily like the most aggressive or efficient thing stats wise, but is a good ability for like a sort of control character, because you get to say no to your opponent putting on pressure in one arena, and you can go after them outside of it. So, like, definitely not really that good in sealed or limited unless your opponent can't deal with you pumping out copious numbers of X-Wings, which maybe they can't. You might just turn one, play a one-cost unit, make an X-Wing, and be spending one for an X-Wing every turn, and your opponent can't answer. It's possible. But I think that this is like deceptively good, where you are just getting access to extra resources and your opponent might not have a way to deal with it. Definitely one that's going to take a real hard look at the card pool, but usually Star Wars Unlimited characters don't spark joy for me like this, where there are so many avenues that you can try to use to break this sort of symmetrical effect and make it more asymmetrical and unfair than it looks. Whether he's good or not, I'm a big fan, and I will definitely be playing with Akbar for sure.
Card games wouldn't be the same without players like you, Dankest. Let me tell ya.
You say this, but when you're in a prison staring down my 11 X-Wing tokens, while you are just trying to attack with your poor Darth Vader leader, or no, not leader, never mind, I lied. Your poor, I don't know, your poor big capital ship can never attack, and you're just getting all these X-Wings that trade favorably into yours from earlier in the game. That's when you'll know Akbar was here.
Dankest, you
Super.
need to make a Twin Suns deck of Lando and Admiral Akbar. And just for the thematic Return of the Jedi moment of both of them in space scrambling, trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, I'll just be hanging out. No leaders till till the 6 resource turn. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
But yeah, Akbar is super cool. Like this is definitely just like, kind of a deck building challenge, and there is, a payoff. The juice could be worth the squeeze. So like tier list wise though, I'll be honest, I think that my inclination would probably be to put Akbar right around Piet and Wedge, kind of in that spot. I'm not sure where around them, but like he could have a higher ceiling than that if someone is creative enough to crack the build.
Interesting. I liked your use of Juice because I was thinking Juice has a C in it and I want to put him in C.
Wow.
I kind of agree as well. Like
You guys have fallen into the trap. Put him in C, because you know what? In fact, we could even go D, because that means that someone can title a video, "How did this D tier character win a local?" You can put a big face on it.
D for Dankest, because you'll be the only one that will play this leader and win with it.
Or a planetary qualifier. Who knows? Could be anything.
If someone makes it in the top 64 at a regional or worlds and then gets the showcase because of it, that would be incredible.
Shots fired.
But I would love it. I would love to see Akbar all of a sudden start tearing it up.
Yeah,
especially the scooter showcase where he looks like he's riding a scooter.
Oh yeah. Give it to me. I'm so ready.
I think he looks more like Job from Arrested Development. Riding a little.
You don't care for Akbar. I see.
I know. I'm a hater.
I gotta add it to the showcase collection. We'll get Akbar in here, right next to Leia.
Fitting. Yeah. Rebel fleet.
Love it.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
2 more.
Which character do people also not know?
Han Solo, never tell me the odds. Who's heard of this guy?
Who?
Rebel Pilot. Yeah, I don't know. Rebel Pilot. This guy doesn't look like Alden Ehrenreich. I don't know who he is.
It's scruffy.
Action. Yeah. You can exhaust him. Reveal the top card of your deck, then attack with a unit. If the revealed card and that unit have different odd costs, that unit gets +1/+0 for this attack. Epic action, if you control 5 or more resources, choose one, deploy as a 3/7 or +3/+4 pirate. Pilot, not a pirate. Although he kind of is a pirate, I don't know. So 3/7, just a rebel pilot, nothing else. And if he's a pilot, attached unit is a leader unit. Was deployed as an upgrade for each friendly unit or upgrade that has an odd cost, ready a resource. Those are the magic words. So basically, the dream scenario is you drop down Han Solo, you get back all of your resources, maybe 3 to 5 resources on that turn 4, and then you get to just go in and play again. But as Dawn and I know, sometimes there is a drawback to constructing a deck with only odd cards. So what are we thinking here about Han?
I think it's fun. I think it's definitely a fun leader to play. Trying to build around the odd cost numbers, it's tricky. You're going to run into problems where you're just not going to have much. You're not be able to get all the value you want out of your resources. I feel like with this kind of leader, you kind of do want a lot of just one cost pilots just to be able to attach something. I think there's some good synergy with some of the cards that are coming out, like Never Tell Me the Odds, or is it Never Tell Me the Odds? Is the event where each player gets to reveal 3 cards from their deck. If they're odd cost, you get some kind of a benefit from it. But it's iconic. It's Han Solo. Deploy on 5, 3/7. When he's an upgrade, 3/4, you get some resources back. Kind of plays like the suspended boba in that way. I kind of like it.
Yeah. So the fact that the number is odd, I think, makes this cracked, because being able to have one be odd is really, really good. And I know you brought up pilots, but they don't even have to be pilots, just units. So if you are swarming with an aggro deck and dropping a bunch of 1-cost guys, making things that cost 1, you can flip Han and suddenly you have all of those resources back. So if you have some way to get some top end at that 3-cost or 5-cost slot, where you can basically unload onto the board, refill, and then use that extra tempo to close out the game, that's really, really good. Vulnerable to board clears, yes, kind of like Piet, a bit of a gimmick, but I think that the thing that Han does is stronger than the thing that Piet does, and I think it could have a little more potential for resilience just because he has access to Cunning's tools and so many more cards to meet the condition.
I have not decided how I feel about Han. Every time I look at Han, I'm just like, I don't know. Like he seems fun, and maybe he can be good, and maybe the stats are good. I like the 7 health. But at the same time, I'm like, it just feels weird. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, I'm torn. And that's my thoughts on him, because I don't know.
He's an odd duck. I think.
And I think people will love him.
Yeah, I think people are going to find ways to find some use. I do think it's funny that the one Millennium Falcon unit that's not an odd cost is Lando's at a 6 cost. So the one time that Han doesn't own the Millennium Falcon, it doesn't really work with him. But I feel like there's enough there. I feel like uh, there's a lot of good odd cost that's being introduced this set. I think there's some past ones like the Spark of Rebellion Falcon coming in on 3 readied um, is really nice. But it'll be tricky. I think it's gonna be tricky to pilot, tricky to play. Um, so I wouldn't put him too high, and I'm not gonna put him too low either. I feel like somewhere in that B range probably feels the most right.
Yeah, I'd love to put him right above Piet and right below Wedge, but and such an interesting card. Like I feel like the cunning leaders seem to have really gotten the more inspiring card text to make people want to solve that puzzle.
For sure. Don?
Where on B do you want to put it? Because I feel like low B, personally.
So I'm saying right in the middle. You're saying
Yeah,
low.
I'd
Where are we
say right in
going?
the middle. I
Okay, I can go for that.
I feel like I don't know if he's gonna be better than Wedge. I think he's definitely gonna be better than Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah, on either side of Piet, I think feels right. That feels right.
Okay.
Last one.
Go for
Last
it.
leader. Is it me?
It's you.
Really? All
Yeah.
right. My other favorite leader for this set. Kazuto Zano? Kaz. Let's call him Kaz. That's what they call him in the Resistance show. So Kaz, his action, you can turn off all abilities of a friendly unit. And then you can take an extra action after this one. If you control 4 or more resources, you can deploy him as a leader or you can deploy him as a pilot. On the ground, he's a 2/5. On attack, choose any number of friendly units. They lose all abilities for this round. When he's a pilot, on attack, choose any number of friendly units. They lose all abilities for this round. So very nice kind of synergy no matter where he is, if he's going to be in space or on the ground. And when he's a pilot, he gives the +3/+3 stats onto the vehicle as well. I'll tell you the roller coaster of emotions that I had when I first saw Kaz. My first instinct was, what's the point? Like, why have this leader turning off abilities? I guess you can turn off bounties, like if that's the way you want to build the deck. I was like, okay. And then I started talking to people in my community about Kaz, and within an hour, I was the most hyped about Kaz. I thought it took an hour of going through cards trying to figure out how would you play Kaz, and he became like one of my favorite leaders for this next set. Uh, for deploy, incredible. You can move so fast with it. Turning off abilities works really well with I'm blanking on the name. The one drop cunning heroic that has a bounty or draw card. You can turn off that bounty. With Kaz, you can turn off the Falcon's ability. The one that comes in ready, where you have to spend a resource if you want to keep it out on the field. You can turn off that ability, and then you don't have to spend a resource, and then you just have the Falcon out. Um, I think there's a lot of good synergy, especially with some very valuable units that do have that inherent bounty trait. And if you don't want your opponent taking advantage of that bounty and you like those boosted stats, then Kaz is a great leader. It moves super quick. I think it's going to be a fast aggro leader, and I'm really excited for Kaz.
Yeah. And with the bounties, there is that moment of weakness between when you play the unit and then the action where you can Kaz it. But the Falcon is just perfect. Like there's nothing they can do about that. It's just a 3/4 that comes in ready. And if they deal with it, well, congratulations, you've answered the Falcon. But no, nothing lost. And that's just unlimited upside. So I'm really interested to see which other synergies people can find that, really work well with this, but just the Falcon alone and flipping on 4 for a good rate make Kaz seem really, really appealing to me.
Yeah, flipping on 4 definitely very appealing, like you said. I think one thing that's the most interesting for me is like the decision making that people will have when playing Kaz. And just kind of like, okay, how do I want to play this? What things do I want to play this with? Is that something that they want to play in like one of the limited formats, or do they just opt for something else? I have a feeling that this is going to be something that might be a little bit more skill testing and that people maybe experiment with, but they probably will just opt for other leaders that are a little bit more straightforward or easy to play, or that don't have like maybe have a little bit more flexibility and don't have as many, kind of uh, decision points as this one does, especially for tournaments with like timed rounds and stuff. That might be something that they want to consider. So that's kind of where my head's at with this. Seems fun and seems cool, but also I think realistically people will just opt for other leaders instead.
I can see that.
I mean, I'm looking at the card pool. I see like at least two or three cards that work really well. There's the 6/7 vigilance ship with heroism that loses -1/-0 for each damage on it, except when it doesn't. And 6/7 for 5, very good stats for the cost. So there's like a vigilance, cunning, space aggro deck here, and uncovering all the pieces once again will be very fun. Like cunning fans are eating good this set. This is definitely going to be entertaining, at least for a lot of time, to figure out which of this stuff is actually going to work and which of this is just, interesting food for thought. But I'm a Kaz fan. I've been sold, Marcus. You got me.
Oh, I'm glad I can recruit more to the Kaz cause. I feel like it's a fantastic place to be, and it's going to be tons of fun to play him
Yeah.
as a leader.
Wait, we get a 3/5. This unit can attack for 2 in space. Oh man. All right. We're ready. This is it, Don. This is the Purify deck. It's happening after all these
That's it.
years. So Marcus, this is like a Hearthstone archetype that has famously like never worked ever until they gave it a really crazy alternate win con, and then it was like pretty decent. But this whole idea of playing these big overstated guys with downsides and then getting rid of the downsides has always been a trap. So Don and I are very conditioned
Yes.
to never fall for this trap.
That's exactly why I'm like, I don't know. I don't see it, but yeah, there's potential. And maybe because of the mechanics and just the way that Star Wars plays out, or maybe we'll see other cards that work really well with it, that maybe it can do a little bit better than what we've kind of become accustomed to with like Hearthstone stuff, other card games.
Yeah. All that being said, I'm totally falling for the trap. You got me, Marcus. I never learned my lesson. So where are we putting it? Where are we putting the Kaz?
I feel good putting him in A. Next to Luke on either side, I feel like is good. That's my opinion on Kaz.
Yeah,
I
I'm down. I'm down. You're
yeah.
right where I'd put him. I'm right there. Don, break this. Where are we putting Kaz?
I want to put him in C.
Oh,
that's
my
that's
boy
maybe
Kaz.
one of my hot takes. I don't know. Just want to like bring it down a level. Like nah,
We can
nah.
split the
Don,
difference and put him somewhere high B.
Sure. But Don, think about it. It's like Silence Priest, but if your hero power was silence and it always costs 0. All right? Are we cooking? Is this real?
Is it real is the question. Is it real? I don't know. I'm not fully convinced. All right.
I mean, the actual downside, if we're gonna come back down to earth here, is that you can only do one unit at a time.
Until he's
Right.
deployed. When he's
Yeah.
deployed, you can choose any number of units.
Until he's not deployed.
Until he's
And
not.
then-
Until he's defeated. And
And then your deck
you're
falls apart.
struggling.
So you
It's
better
true.
hope that those
Yeah.
first couple turns are real good. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm a believer. Like, even if the whole thing doesn't work and you just get a little early advantage, like, I'm not really crying because I have to play Millennium Falcons in a deck where my leader flips on 4. I feel like that's a really good worst case scenario. So, all right, Don, can we sell you on B between Wedge and Han? It's my
You wanna-
best offer. Best I can.
Best offer.
I'll back that
I-
offer.
I was gonna say, you want to go that low on B? You guys were thinking A.
No,
I could
no,
go
no.
high B.
Are we
Well-
settling?
We're settling. I could go high B. All right, this we're auctioning here.
All right. All right. You're not negotiating very well, Don. We made you
No,
an offer.
I'm not a
and
good
you're like,
negotiator.
I'll give you
All right.
more. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Fine. Put him above Wedge. We'll all shake hands. Good show, everybody.
Good
I
show.
like that. Yeah.
All right. Yep, we'll do it. We'll
Wedge
do it.
him in between Wedge and Phasma.
Mm.
Okay. All right. I like that.
All right. I like this board.
This is
Yeah,
the
I
tier
mean,
list of all tier lists. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
definitely it's there.
I really do believe though that the 7 best characters on this tier list include 6 of the 7 best characters. So I'm very happy.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to revisit this towards the end of the set and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
see that we were completely wrong on Akbar and Akbar is cracked and he's S tier all on his own.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually a little bit terrified of the guy who goes one drop with Akbar, and then like if they're able to like get a ready one somehow, if that ever becomes a thing, like a ready one with a downside, one tap X-wing go, I'll be sweating. That'll be the time.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
wild stuff.
Yeah, I definitely will be interested to see how this compares, like you said, kind of after it's been a little while, after things have had time to settle and work themselves out a little bit more. You know, it'll be really interesting. I feel like, based on my experience with reviewing full sets of cards, this seems really optimistic, but we'll see. I do want to reiterate the fact that we did kind of base this on like overall strength as well. And not just, I think we talked a lot about constructed, but we did also kind of bring in the aspects of limited play and kind of overall like how these leaders do in multiple formats. So we'll see. I think if we were just doing certain formats, this might look a little bit different.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the vibes invaded the tier list. Don't worry. If you want the honest tier
vibes.
list, we can maybe try that again another time if we're gonna be very serious. But this was good.
I see my friend Tommy in the chat is upset that I got a heroic leader at the top of the tier list because in my local community, I love villainy and I can never win with heroic. And I've sworn off heroic and I can't do it. But I also can't deny how good Poe is. Poe is just incredible. And he deserves to be at the top.
Man, we really did put like 6 villainy characters in a row, didn't we?
Yeah, which is for me, I'm like the opposite of you, Marcus. I'm like, I've been playing the heroism. I haven't really found a lot of villainy that I like vibe with, that I really like. So this set, I'm like, all villainy? Yes. What are we doing? Am I going to the dark side here? What's happening?
It's
I feel
it's
like
a fun place to be. It's
yeah. You got me.
Yeah,
got some power.
I haven't done much villainy aggro and heroism control yet. I've usually ended up on the opposite side for each, and man, I don't know. Akbar has me cooking. I'm I'm ready for that. That is like that ability is just so cool. Like I know Thrawn kind of is doing the same thing, like Spark of Rebellion Thrawn, but like a little bit only more defensive. But having that other proactive mode that just says X-wing, 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 might be able to swing some games. So
I'm
see if it.
excited. If once you build that deck, can you send it to me? Because I definitely want to. I want to
Oh
test it
yeah,
out.
I'll hit you up.
Nice.
All right.
All right.
Well,
We wrap it up.
yeah. Yeah. I think just as a wrap up, I want to ask you guys, is there a certain leader that you are looking forward to maybe trying out the most in pre-release events, because that's coming up like immediately. So, pre-release are kind of the first thing that's happening before the set actually launches. So, any particular leader that you're looking forward to playing or trying out during any pre-release event that you might be doing?
Huh. Um, I think in limited and in pre-release, the ones that I'm interested in the most is Kaz, Boba Fett. Um, I love the idea of Ventress. Um, and I'm really excited to build that in Constructed. I'm not sure if Ventress is going to have good play this weekend. And Sealed. Um, honestly, I wasn't too excited for Wedge until we started talking about and ranking him, and now I'm pretty excited for Wedge. I'm really excited to try and play Wedge during at least one of the events I'm doing this weekend for pre-release.
Awesome.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but Poe, man, that will be just that character is so obnoxious in a good way, so obnoxious, and that's the one I want to end up with. Winning's fun too, but yeah, Poe's good. Poe is very good.
I think for me, I mean, if I find one, I want to play Vader and see how that goes. But I'm most excited for Rio. I think Rio and Sealed is going to be super fun.
Nice.
I agree. Yeah, I think Rio's going to be really cool.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for checking this out. We hope that you enjoyed our rankings and creating this tier list. Let us know what we got right and what we didn't. Let us know your hot takes. Maybe you have some difference in opinions, or maybe we overhyped some of these leaders or underrated some of these leaders. So let us know. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, if you're watching this at the end of the set and we're completely wrong, it's okay. We're going to do it all over again, probably in
Yeah.
set 5.
Every
So,
time.
yeah.
Every time. That's
Yeah,
how that's
every
how
time.
that's how reviews go for card games. You're gonna be totally wrong, and it's great. And you love to be wrong. It's fun.
Oh, yeah. I know my future self is going to be watching this at the end of the set, being like, what were you thinking? Putting Lando in D.
I don't know. When we have 7 Landos in top 8
I'd,
uh in
Oh,
Vegas, then we'll see
yeah.
who's laughing.
gosh. Oh.
Oh.
I'll be laughing at all the people that ended up playing in the main event in Vegas then. That's what's gonna happen. Like,
There's gonna be some
I'm
long
not playing.
games.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the secret. You drop
Ugh,
out Lando. No one wants to go up against it. They'll just
ugh,
drop. Yeah.
no.
I wish it was that easy.
Oh.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thank you
Well,
so much, everybody, and thank you too for joining. This was a lot of fun.
of course. Yeah. This was a blast. Definitely do it again.
Yeah. Again, like in 3 minutes, 10:30, run it back, or again like next set. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah. Let me just grab some 3-minute dinner. I'll be right back.
Sweet.
Let's do
Go
it again.
just same character, same leaders. It might be different this time. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we should. Yeah. Flip it around.
All right, awesome.
Amazing.
But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And this was a really, really great time. Was happy to be here.
Yep. Thank you all.
See ya.